I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Roll call. Mr. Moore.
Let's see here. Ms. Parker, Ms. Kinzer,
Present.
Ms. Hopkins. Let's see. Mr. Moore is present. Mr. Atkinson, Mr. Sims.
Here.
Mr. Beaver.
Here.
Mr. Howell.
Here.
Ms. Morency. Here. Mr. Dudley.
Here.
And I guess Mr. Fulbright hadn't been sworn in yet, but I'll call him up here anyway.
I'm here.
Thank you.
All
We
right.
do have a quorum.
Thank you. And Kristen, Ms. Parker's here, so thank you. Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Spring Hill Middle School is going to lead us, and then we'll have a moment of silence.
Good evening, Dr. Marzak, Chairman Kinzer, and the board. I would like to introduce some of our Spring Hill Middle School ambassadors who will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business is to adopt the agenda. No, I'm sorry. Oh, my gosh, the most important thing of the whole night. Mayor Ogles.
Yes, ma'am. We
have a prospective new board member. Would you swear him in?
Absolutely. It would be an honor. Do we have an oath?
Huh? What? Do I have a what? I pledge allegiance to... You're supposed to have the oath. Vote. Just vote whatever Ms. Kinzer says.
All right. So apparently I'm supposed to have the oath, so I'll own that, by the way, but I don't have it. So we're going to wing it, and if by law we need to redo this in my office, we will. Okay, how's that?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So first, I just want to say it is a great honor to be here to swear you in. I consider you a friend. So beyond your integrity, your experience on the county commission, chairman of the budget committee, the perspective you bring to this body as you look at the budgets, how to spend surplus monies, how that affects the budget process the following year. I think that's going to be a great opportunity for both sides to learn. I think over the years there's been some mistrust and perhaps even miscommunication between the two bodies, and we're all working to improve that, because we all agree the more we work together, the more our students benefit. And so it is an honor to stand here with you. And
Mayor Ogles, we have an oath.
Well, look at there. Leave it to my other buddy. What do you say?
Thank you, sir.
Oh, wow.
Pad and swear.
Mine would have been easier. For the record, you pulled up the nerd version.
No different.
Right. All right, here we go. I guess hold up your right hand. Do you, Michael Fulbright, do solemnly swear that you will uphold the Constitution and the statutes of the United States and the state of Tennessee, and that as a school board member of Murray County, that you will faithfully execute the office to which you have been elected?
I do.
Or appointed. By the authority vested in me from the citizens of Murray County, as I'm having to edit this as we go, county mayor, I would like to swear you in as school board member for Murray County. Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Ogles, and welcome, Mr. Fulbright. Okay, now we do need to adopt an agenda. Mr. Dudley's moved to adopt the agenda. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Howell. Any discussion? Then we're ready to vote. That motion does pass, I think. Okay. Next is, all right. Are we ready? Okay. Next on the agenda is Ms. Farah to come talk to us about your school a little bit.
Good evening again. We are super excited about Spring Hill Middle School, home of the best middle school in the country. This year we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary. What you see before you is a little bit different of type of artwork that you see. These posters display our mission, serve, honor, motivate, and succeed, and this year we're very intentional and focused on our mission. We don't just want it plastered in our schools. We want to live it and breathe it each and every day. So what you have before you are the students of Spring Hill Middle School on these posters. And I can sit up here all day and talk about Spring Hill Middle School, but I think I'm a little bit partial. But my students who love to talk about Spring Hill Middle School wanted to come tonight and wanted to come before you and tell you a little bit about why they feel like they are at the home of the best middle school in the country. So, you want to speak?
Spring Hill Middle School it has a very big impact on me. I'm originally from Texas, and school districts there are so different, and not badly, but just not as educated. But school, like this school year, has definitely opened my eyes to a good education and for a good future for me.
Spring Hill Middle School to me. Spring Hill Middle School to me is, I think it's best because you get high school credits and stuff, and I can get high school credit for next year, and there's a lot of fun activities there. So yeah.
One thing I like about Spring Hill is that they have a bunch of different, well, like Ethan was talking about, the different high school courses. There's career marketing, agri-science, STEM, health and wellness has a high school credit, and I think there's one more. Algebra and world history for 8th graders that you can take and then get those credits for high school. I like that because it can allow you to have a better start in high school than you may if you didn't take those courses in the first place. So yeah, I like that for Spring Hill.
One thing I like about Spring Hill Middle School is that we have a lot of different sports to choose from. Like, some people play like 3 or 4 different sports, so we don't have to just like not play the sport that we want for the school that we go to. So, yeah.
What I like about Spring Hill Middle School is it's like home. You know everyone around. You can go and talk to teachers about stuff, and you feel very comfortable about doing it.
what I like about Spring Hill is the fact that you can get high school credits, and the sports. I am a volleyball player myself, and that's just brought me closer with a lot of people there, including my coach. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, there you have it, folks. That's why we're at the best middle school in the country. And what I like about Spring Hill Middle School is what you see before you. Just a partial of our students, but we have 564 students whom I just truly adore and love to see them coming in smiling every day to that school. So, this is our family. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Thank you all.
Jonathan has one more thing. Sorry.
All right.
So, another thing we have at Spring Hill is we have these pep rallies for the different sports, and they're always a lot of fun. And yeah, we just enjoy those a lot, and we go really extra with the stuff we do for the pep rally. So it's just a lot of fun. Yeah, we really enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is, we are so blessed at Maury County Schools that we have got the support that we have had. The churches that helped on that Serve Sunday, it's amazing what they got done, what a great help it was, and how blessed we feel that this happened. And so we want to honor those churches tonight. So Dr. Marzak.
Thank you very much, Chair Kinzer. Board of Education, as you know, last month was Serve Sunday, and we had numerous churches do a number of activities at our schools, beautifying the campuses, pulling weeds, laying mulch, and painting and such. So I wanted to take this time to recognize those churches that volunteered at our school and give them a little token of our appreciation. So first, Thompson Station Church. Do we have a representative here from Thompson Station? Maybe? Kind of? Eric? Eric is not here. He's probably serving at a school, helping do some kind of beautification. So that's Eric Nichols of Thompson Station. Murray Hills Church. Murray Hills Church. I knew Russ couldn't be here, so he sent somebody in his stead. So we want to thank Murray Hills. They did a lot of work at a lot of different schools. Yes. Oh, come on down. Come on down. Not a problem. So thank you, Murray Hills Church. And the last one, this one's a little bit different, but this was a partner for Randolph Howell, Journey's Biker Church. So they did some work for Randolph Howell Elementary School. Do we have a representative from Journey's Biker Church? Nope. They're probably out riding tonight in the beautiful weather. So,
I don't blame them.
just wanted to thank those three churches for the work they've done for our school system.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Woodard, do you have some presentations to make?
Good evening, Chair Kinzer, Dr. Marzak, and distinguished board members. I've asked the county mayor to assist me with these awards tonight, so I've got a great helper tonight.
He doesn't have to swear anybody in.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I was not responsible for bringing the awards.
Gotcha.
We're going to make the mayor work tonight.
Yeah.
So tonight I have the pleasure and the honor of awarding 8 outstanding employees in Maury County Public Schools who have completed the Maury County Aspiring Administrators Academy. Our work in the academy rests around 3 principles, and that is 1, developing instructional insight, number 2, developing school operational expertise, and the 3rd principle is simply professionalism. The Aspiring Administrators Academy is dedicated to growing and grooming talented future school leaders from within. Key words, from within. Over the course of a calendar year, these candidates have endured a series of rigorous courses and training exercises in school leadership, which includes safety and school culture, administrative thinking, employee discipline, and managing employee misconduct. They've learned about the Tennessee Accountability Model. They've learned about the TBOS Value-Added Growth Model, school branding and marketing, and a host of other topics through this academy. All 8 of these candidates are now in the Belmont University Principals Pipeline Program, which is a 10-day residency program where they shadow a veteran administrator in our county, and they get advanced training also from retired Tennessee superintendents as well through Belmont University. These candidates have worked extremely hard, and they are worthy of honor and distinction as future leaders in our county. As I close this evening, I want to remind everybody that leadership is always a higher calling, and it's a higher calling to serve others. Mahatma Gandhi once said that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. These candidates have embraced this philosophy, and they're ready to step up to the plate when the opportunity arises here in Maury County Schools. So we'll start with our first honoree. Honorees, if you would stand right here to my left. Our first honoree, who had the highest overall score in the training exercise. I also want to salute some of the principals who assisted me with this, Dr. Michael Ford and Will Penner, Tim Drinkwine, and a few others assisted me with some of these training exercises for these candidates. But the first person is Miss Whitney Kovach. Whitney serves at McDowell Elementary School, and she is a school counselor there. Our next candidate from Columbia Central High School, home of the Mighty Lions, is Miss Diana Davis. Ms. Davis serves as a special education teacher at Columbia Central. Our next honoree is from Spring Hill Elementary School, Miss Shari Riley. Our next honoree is an elementary school teacher at Hampshire Unit School, Patsy Ritchie. Our next honoree is a teacher at Highland Park Elementary School, Miss Jenny Sloan. Our next honoree is now a teacher at Riverside Elementary School and a person who has served our county extremely well through the Cowboy Up program. I am super pleased to honor tonight Miss Regina Peary. Just two more. Our next honoree from Hampshire Unit School, who has been promoted this year, and she is now an assistant principal, Miss Stephanie Page. And our final honoree tonight has been kind of the rock of the program. Anytime I needed something, she was always there, and she kind of communicated to the rest of the group what I needed done. And so I'm super glad to honor Miss Ina Reeves from Battle Creek Elementary School. I'd like to ask Dr. Marzak and Chair Kinzer if you'd come down and take a picture with our honorees. And we have a few more tokens of appreciation to give to these wonderful ladies. Let's give them one more round of applause.
I don't know how to unlock it. Well, we need to get them all cinched up here. Well, we don't want
All right, I'll give you a picture.
Good. Dr. Woodard, make sure I can see your whole face. So you'll get just a little closer to Dr. Marzak. Good. And come right on in, please, Ina. Yep. In fact, come around to this end.
Next on the agenda is the Murray County Education Association, but before you speak, Jennifer, this month is honoring Principals Month, so what principal, I see some principals out there. Stand up, I want to appreciate you. Huh? Only two? Well, okay, you're... Woo! Okay, Murray County Education Association.
Chair Kinzer, Board, thank you for allowing us again monthly to speak. This past month we had a great meeting with Dr. Marzak and the fine arts teachers, and they came with solutions in mind. So we shared that, and I hope Dr. Marzak emailed that out to the board, some of their ideas as far as getting materials and how they can better be seen in the community. One of the things they were concerned about is making sure that even if there's not a grant, they still have the opportunity for extended contracts, as their program is as valuable as athletics. Okay. Sorry, it's been a rough day for the first day back. We still have not signed contracts, but I did talk to Dr. Woodard, and teachers have not signed contracts yet, and it's a bit later than usual, so we've gotten some concerns about that, but Dr. Woodard said they'll be coming. And there are still some bugs being worked out in the new grading system that has some teachers stressed out. But hopefully all that'll be worked out. One thing that I did enjoy was talking to Dr. Woodard regarding compensation issues, finding substitute teachers and why we're having such a hard time finding substitute teachers. And it's really hard to find a sub when you're not competitive with districts surrounding us. And also I look forward to having more conversation regarding compensating our employees and building that. The other good thing that happened that I really enjoyed was several teachers and I went to meet with Dr. Douglas, oh, look at that, he got a promotion. He got an additional degree overnight he didn't know he was going to have. Doug Laconin met with some teachers and we just looked at a time management system that it was really I think it'll be a positive thing to deal with any issues such as time, leave, things like that. So that's all I really have today. Just those few little things that are bugs being worked out apparently. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is staff reporting. There are no one signed up for public delegation, so that's why I didn't, already knew that. So staff reporting, nothing. Okay. Next on the agenda is consent items. Do I hear a motion to accept? Mr. Dudley made the motion to accept the consent items. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Howell. Any discussion? Then we're ready to vote. So you need a voice vote from Mr. Fulbright and Mr. Moore. Yours, you got yours in. It's just Mr. Fulbright, right? He votes yes. Okay. Let's see. Next on the consent items. Now we're ready for new business. We move on down here. Finance, right? Were there any questions? The budget amendments, there were budget amendments that were put on Friday, so hopefully you had a chance to see those, and those, also the budget amendment for those funds that we were spending, unexpended fund balance that we were spending. Do you have anything to say about all that, Mr. Doctor?
Mr. Doctor.
Actually, well, I won't get into why I didn't go get my PhD. That's a long story for another night. So finance. under our budget amendments, we have a few that are just transferring 142 funds to 141 funds. They never should have been in 142. That's for the CCIS. Let's see. We've got some prior year purchase orders that didn't get fully expended. We liquidated those and reopened them, and so we have to do a budget amendment to be able to expend those funds. Also, we have our adjustment for the administrators' change, the central office's change to the budget to equal everything out and give the 1% raise. So that's your budget amendment 9028, and also our use of excess fund balance in budget amendment 9029. So I am asking for those budget amendments to be approved. Also, to make a note on the September financials, I saw that the revenues were actually sorted a little weird. They weren't in order by account number, so we'll get that corrected, but I did double check the numbers and they are good.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Rickon? Ms. Parker?
I just wanted to make a motion to approve all the budget amendments with the exception of 9029, and then if I can ask a question about that afterwards.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? That's for all the budget amendments other than the last one, correct? What was the number of it? 902. 902, all right. All right, then we'll vote on that, and then we'll come back to that. Which one are we not? I know, but which one are we not voting on?
Use of fund balance.
Oh, okay.
Shirley's putting in a motion.
All right.
9029. 29. There you go.
I can't see the screen, so I don't know what the,
You scroll back.
can you scroll back? Okay, we still got some pending votes. Okay, that motion does pass. Mr. Fulbright? Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Dudley? Yes. Okay. That should get it. All right. The next would be the discussion of 9029. Ms. Parker?
I noted that budget amendment is fairly consistent with what we talked about at the retreat. I was just wondering, is it possible for us to move those funds as bids come in? I know that certain things, I know at the time we talked about the digital forms, for example, and you mentioned that that had to be bid out. Is there a reason why we have to move this money right now and could we not just wait until we have bids on some of these things and then do a budget amendment at that time?
We can wait and postpone that portion of the budget amendment. We can make a change to this budget amendment here. You know, I know that maybe there may be different opinions on what should be approved or not. I do know that we have gotten the information and that the bid is currently in process, so these funds would be reserved for any company that won that bid to provide that service and be able to allocate that. The truth is once we get the bid, we can accept the bid and move forward with that process and allocate funds after the fact if we need to do so.
Well, and let me just say, not just for that one, but really with the exception of, I guess, probably the diploma devices, which I know we have an exact number for. The rest of them, I think, curriculum, athletics, we're going to have to get bids on all of those things, I think.
The books we probably, we don't need to have a bid on the textbooks.
Right, but we also don't know if we're gonna spend all of that money or if we're gonna need more money than, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I think it's not that I don't want us, I want us to go forward with that plan, but I also feel like to move it right now and then potentially have to move it back. I mean, I remember at one point that we got in trouble with the auditors for constantly having to move things back and forth.
Yeah,
So I
it shows
just,
a lack of confidence in GL entering. Yeah.
correct.
Something else, sorry to interrupt,
Go.
but something else that we did do is if you go into your financials and you look at the line item 72810, it has one charge for $3,820 this month, which is a charge from last year. So we're actually in the process of journal entering that out of there. So when you see your financials every month, the line item, the 76100,799, that's the only thing that's budgeted in there. So if you want to keep up with, did somebody spend money out of it without approval or without a bid, you will be able to see that, because that's when we did this budget amendment, we made sure those monies, except for the textbook, fell into lines that nothing else is spent out of. So we can actually keep up with, nothing gets spent out of restricted money, because that's how we have to keep it up for audit.
Well, and that's kind of what I wanted to make sure of. Just,
Yeah.
I know that there are certain things that could be under a spending limit that could go through without the board having approved it. And when we're starting to talk about like a plan, particularly for books or for athletics or whatnot, I would kind of like to see the bigger picture before approving those funds personally. But I would be willing to make a motion to approve the budget amendment for the diploma devices out of this budget amendment, if that could be done.
Can I ask a question? One of the things that we deal with is getting it to the commission in a timely manner. The fact that our meetings, we had to have it the second and fourth, this month, that means we can't get that this month, right? So it would be November before they could approve that budget amendment, which means it wouldn't be possible to spend the money till after that as well. So, if we don't approve it and we go further, I mean, you've got to think it's a month, 6 weeks, you know, before, I mean, that's just a thought. That was one of the reasons we tried to change our meeting time, and then we had to change it because of spring break. So, yes. And I'm sorry, Miss, she may not have been talking, I just started talking, I'm sorry. We'll come back to you. Go ahead.
So that's correct. Whatever amendment to this budget amendment we make tonight, that is what will go to the commission in November. So if it gets kicked around, and we are meeting the first Monday in November, is that correct? So we would have time to also get that meeting's budget amendments on November's full commission meeting. So if we do it now or we do it on November 4th, all of those budget amendments will be approved by the commission at the same time. So the timing difference there is kind of a non-issue, really.
Any other, Ms. Parker?
I think I have a motion on the floor. Sorry, I don't know if you want to see if
What
there's
is
a
your
second.
motion?
My motion is to approve the capital, or the central and other data processing equipment in the amount of $750,000, which I think would cover the diploma. Is that correct, Doug?
Have we already voted on these expenditures? No, we just did it in work session? Okay.
Yeah, the retreat.
Okay, at the retreat, you're right. Okay, so motion is to approve the budget amendment as, say it again.
To approve spending $750,000 under debits for central and other data processing equipment.
Okay, is there a second to the motion? Second. Mr. Beaver seconded the motion. Any discussion? Dr. Marzak?
Tommy, if you will refresh my memory, it's been a week or so. The central processing 317-375 for Care Monkey, the bid is closed, and they're the only company that bid, correct?
I am not positive on the close. I know it opened Friday, went the whole week. I'm not sure on the closing, but I think, to my knowledge, they were the only ones that bid.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it's closed.
Gotcha.
Any other discussion? Me? Mr. Moore? Oh, excuse me, I didn't see. Ms., who was first? Ms. Morency?
I just have a question. Do we have a timeline on the textbooks when we are going to purchase those textbooks and we'll need this money? Anybody?
I can tell you from conversations that I had with Dr. Woodard, we talked about having the round table with teachers, and we were looking at potentially doing that the professional development day before Thanksgiving break. So we're not looking until the end of Thanksgiving to even get input from teachers on the textbooks. Now, I understand we want to make sure that if we're ready, that we get it in their hands, but I think one of the issues that I think teachers have conveyed to us is also they have to have time to be trained on it and to absorb it. And so I relayed my concern to Dr. Woodard that I don't want us to just buy something without really fully vetting it. And you know, if we find out that we need to spend more than the amount allocated on here, more than 542, I want us to have that opportunity as well. But I think if we're trying to work within this framework, there's nothing to keep our staff members from going forward and working within this framework. I mean, clearly bids went out for for processing that CareMonkey applied for without a budget amendment, and we can do the same thing with all these other things. I felt like diploma was something that we have an exact amount on, and so this way we can, it just gives us a little bit better checks and balances, I think.
Is capital outlay, is that the same way? I mean, we're not ready to spend this money.
Well, the capital outlay was specifically for athletics, and I doubt that we're not going to be overhauling any fields this year. I would imagine that's going to be going forward. Most of that work probably will be going on during the summer or during the off season for those particular sports. Was my thinking.
I just know that the devices are pretty, the teacher devices are the ones that we're looking at almost immediately. And so,
And that would be covered under this budget amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moore? Okay. Mr. Howell?
I understand where you're coming from, but this, I mean, we're a budgeting and policy making board. We are supposed to trust the people that we've hired, or that our superintendent has hired to make these decisions for us. If we had put this $542,000 for textbooks into our original operating budget, we wouldn't be sitting here saying, well, you know, we're gonna wait and see before we put this in the budget. It would already been in the budget and approved and done. So I don't know why we wouldn't trust them to do what we want them to do with that money. I don't think that, I mean, obviously the $500,000 for the athletic field, there's a plan in place. He's got a plan right now. He can present right now. $500,000 is a drop in the bucket. It's not like there won't be any money left over that will go back into a budget amendment. That's just to get started on a very large and yearly project. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't see anything here that we're not going to do. So why would we not just go ahead and authorize them to do their jobs?
Mr. Dudley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'm not saying that Mr. LeConan is going to have the same problems that we've had in the past, but I think there's some distrust we've had over, or some problem we've had over trusting financial people to do what they said they were going to do. So I can see the concerns of wanting to go through this step by step. I mean, Mr. Conan and his department has not done anything that I see is wrong, or anything that's going to lead us down to the problems we've had in the past. But I think there are some distrust, and that we don't want to just turn people loose necessarily. So, with that said,
Mr. Fulbright.
Thank you, Doug. If this were to be put into the budget amendment goes through and this $542,000 is transferred. No, I'm talking about the textbook number. what is the process then on the financial side for ordering those and paying for those?
So first, the process is to identify what material, what you're looking for. There are multiple ways you can buy textbooks. So anything over $25,000 on our process requires either a bid, a statewide contract that a company may have with the state as the verified provider of textbooks, and then a purchasing cooperative. So those three methods are all acceptable under the comptroller's office. So what we will do is if a vendor comes forward and says we'd like to provide these textbooks, we are a member of the USDA, U.S. Communities cooperative. We would say, okay, we're going to need your contract, and we're going to need to verify the price that you're giving us is what is on that cooperative.
Okay, let me stop you there, because that hits at my point.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, say they go through the cooperative,
Mm-hmm.
does the school board then have a say-so over how that money is spent, once it's in the budget, the way you're describing?
The answer is no.
Okay.
Because you would approve any purchase over a certain amount, but you're allocating budget here, so you're giving the okay to spend that kind of money. What you will do, I think. Hold on one second, Shifra. Is anything above 10,000 come before the school board as well? Okay. So if it's over $10,000, even it doesn't have to go through anything extra on the purchasing process, but this school board would see the purchase of over $10,000 come through here before it was actually expended. So whether it was purchasing cooperative, bid, or statewide contract.
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't remember that quite clearly.
Ms. Parker?
Which that kind of makes my point for me, which is why I was thinking we can just approve it as it comes, because it's going to be coming back. And usually when we have an expenditure that requires a budget amendment, not necessarily like this situation, but on occasion when we know that we are going to need extra money, then that is attached. I can remember Mr. Breeden bringing things from a facility standpoint, and it wasn't in the budget. And so when we approved the bid for Train or whoever to provide that particular service or equipment, then at that point we approved the budget amendment at the same time that we approved the vendor and their whatever service they were providing.
And we've built that into our purchasing policy as well. So it's good that that's going forward. I was been talking to Patty today. One thing I wanted to add, information about the bid currently for a digital forms provider. The bid closes October 17th at 3 p.m. this week. And then it'll be closed, and whoever's bid on it, the purchasing department will meet with Dr. Marzak and select a provider of that service.
I just feel like that I would like to see the budget amendment for all of it to stay in, because I just think it's a delay whenever we have to go through month by month by month. I don't want to have to wait to get textbooks and curriculum. They need to, your committee hopefully will meet and get input from teachers, and something can be done as soon as possible when we do get that income, not have to wait for even a December meeting to say this is how much it's going to cost. I would rather see us go forward so that we wouldn't have those kind of delays in it. I can understand maybe the athletic funds, but we haven't even given Mr. Pointer an opportunity to give us the list of what we don't even know. So that might be something that we need to hear in a work session. I think kind of put it off as whatever it is. But Ms. Morency.
Question for you, Doug. Would we show more budget amendments, doing it, leaving this in there, and then as each thing comes in, making that amendment, rather than to go ahead and transfer everything and spend it out of these line items, rather than going back and forth?
Of course, you'll have more transactions. I will say that the main problem that the comptroller's office has is when you enter a budget amendment that's already been approved and you enter it wrong, and then you have to fix it, and then you bring it back.
Okay.
And that's what they have a problem with. If they would like to see the transactions go down because it's less to audit, it's less adjustments to our budget and our books. But yeah, I just
So,
wanted to say
I guess
that.
my question is, which way do you recommend? I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, because it's all gonna come to us before we do it. So my question to you is, how would you like to see this done?
If I had a vote, I don't. Quite honestly, I would make sure I knew exactly what I wanted to do before I was allocated the budget, because once you allocate the budget and you approve it and it's in front of the world, then vendors can see it and they know how much you want to spend.
Okay.
That's my opinion, but you're the school board, and if you don't have some vendors you've kind of already know, you know, but for things that are unmarked here, you're basically giving somebody a number that you'd be willing to spend on a certain thing. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer or anything, but that's what you asked for my opinion.
I asked for your opinion. That's why you get the big bucks. That's what we need to know, Mr. Fulbright.
Just one point of information. Where did we get the $542,000 number? What led us to that number?
That is a cut that was made from textbooks downwards to get the budget to work for a 1%
So that was what
raise.
was cut to balance the budget? Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
And I would assume maybe if this motion passes and then we see what curriculum, we do have a little money to play with in fund balance that we left in there of that, so we may be able to spend more. So, there you go. Any other discussion? Then we're ready to vote. Okay, the motion to approve $750,000 from central processing to take care of diploma items related to budget amendment 9029. So we would only be voting on those items. If yeah, Denny seconded it. I'm sorry. Mr. Beaver. Howard. Okay, are we ready to vote? Mr. Dudley, can you give us a voice vote? So no. What about you, Mr. Fulbright? Yes. So that motion does pass. All right, moving on then. Let me see where I am here. Zoning and facilities. Woohoo. Mr. Pearman, welcome.
Good evening. How are you? A little bit of a change, huh? So, it had been a while, but yeah, it worked out okay. So, the first thing you see there just is the two projects that Mr. Breeden discussed with you guys at the work session at Highland Park and then at Riverside. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Yes, ma'am.
To vote. Show of hands.
You want me to do it? You want me to do it? Yeah, sure. Okay. Please vote now. Oh, sorry, who made the motion? Who made the motion? Mr. Beaver did? Okay, who seconded? I seconded. Thank you, Dave. All right, please vote now. Mr. Fulbright? Yes. Mr. Dudley? Yes. All right, motion passed.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next on the agenda is a letter of intent. I think that the copy is on there, it's been signed. So, what we need to talk about is the costs, right?
Yes, ma'am, and actually at the work session, you had mentioned that we had approved this. We went back through board minutes. We had not.
No, we had not.
The intent letter that had been approved was with the city of Spring Hill. This one's with Murray County, and it has never received board approval. We could not find it anywhere in the minutes. We went all the way back through June, and this is the proposal that Mr. Sumner's actually came forward with. And we searched through, and the one we found was with the city of Spring Hill, not with Murray County. We never found on any of the minutes where it had passed as the board.
Not approved that we did at the, Scott Summers came and spoke at the board meeting, we discussed it, and we approved
And
it.
we've had this conversation, we just can't find anywhere where it actually is in the minutes that it was approved. So we would just ask, just for clarity, if you would maybe do that one more time.
Sure. It's, yeah, okay. Is there a motion to approve the already approved letter of intent? All right, Mr. Moore made the motion, Mr. Fulbright seconded the motion, any discussion? Oh, excuse me, Ms. Morency.
Sorry, I thought when we discussed this before that we put some kind of stipulation on there that if the road wasn't built and the bridge wasn't built, that, it would revert back to, go ahead.
I remember. This is just a letter of intent.
It's just a letter of, to do the survey, that's all it is. Right. Any other discussion? Then, we're ready to vote.
Please vote now.
I can't see any of the voting, y'all just have to tell me. Okay.
Mr. Dudley?
Mr. Dudley? Yes.
Mr. Fulbright? Yes. Mr. Beaver? Yes. Motion passed.
All right, that motion passes. All right, now that we have voted on it again.
And I apologize
That's
for,
okay.
we
I
just wanted to make
understand.
sure it was
Absolutely.
in the record that it had been approved, so.
Right. Next will be the cost of it, right?
Yes, ma'am, and you know, we presented to you guys, the scheduling rate from Sawyer Land Services, who we've been using up there. Mr. Hall is currently asking for a document from them that says they will not exceed a certain amount. You know, it'll be up to this, and Mr. Hall's off, we have not received that as of yet. So, I can't tell you an exact number on that. We've had some numbers that we've tossed around that we think we should be at, but they have yet to give us an exact of what this surveying would cost. We've asked, and we're awaiting that from them right now.
So we'll wait till next meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you. Moving on. Next is the addition to Spring Hill High School.
And with this, I don't know if you want to take an action tonight or not. We've sought a couple of things. I am meeting with Hewlett Spencer tomorrow. We do not have a GNP at this point. They're telling us that we're about $282,000 short on design money in order to get that GNP. And so what we're looking forward from you is just clarity on your timeline moving forward. We know there's a referendum coming in March, and we just want to make sure that we're prepared and that you guys have got what you asked for, whether it's beforehand, after the fact, or what. I am meeting with Hewlett Spencer tomorrow on this specifically. That was as soon as they could meet, to talk about why that number is what it is and what that will encompass in order for us to get that GMP. But we're looking for direction from you as a timeline right now.
Mr. Moore.
Okay, I'll say the same thing I've been saying for a while now. We do not need to move ahead with the GMP on this. Again, we don't have confirmation from the county commission that we're getting any funding. There's a 90-day limit on most of these things, even once they get it produced. And I firmly believe, and I think if you could explore that with Hewlett-Spencer tomorrow, that we can come to a workable number that does not require the added cost of a GMP and get us pigeonholed into that every time.
And that's the question that's coming to them tomorrow is
good, perfect.
Why would we need
I would
this
prefer
much
that
more
this
work?
body, and again, I'm just one member, I would prefer that we put this off until you have a further discussions with them and see that we can get to that point. Because I know when we started this process, the GMP was a good thing, but I think we've gotten into kind of a back and forth with the county commission. I think we're just spending a lot of money I would rather not spend, especially when we can get to a workable number. And I've had multiple discussions with Jamie Spencer, and I think he feels like they can get to a number that can satisfy the needs of the county commission to be able to get us some budgetary numbers and move ahead. So I would prefer this board just take no action on it.
And again, forgive the redundancy, with this transition, we're just looking for very clear direction on where we're going right now. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Pearman. All right, next on the agenda is the annual board review. Tell me about that.
Any suggestions?
Okay, Ms. Parker.
Can we just move that to the work session? Because it looks like from a time standpoint, that wasn't on our work session agenda. And I'll be honest, I haven't reviewed all of Section 3 over fall break.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I've just gotten myself out of this program. I'll get back here just a minute. Yes, we'll put that on the work session. All right, next are instructional bids over 10,000. Still not up here yet. No bids. We don't have any bids. The supervisor of digital integration is on there because there's been discussion about that. I think that Mr. Schuyler has talked to us as to why that is a budgeted position. So we would have to make a motion to take it out of the budget. If we choose to let it be funded, then no action would be necessary, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you need to plead your case, or? You pleaded with all of us, I think. No, okay. Well, is, Ms. Morency?
I was very happy to see that, and I can't see where it is, but in the job description, that it says that this person would be writing grants. And I think that this position can just about pay for itself in grant money, that if we can, when we hire, that we hire somebody that either knows how to write grants or can be trained to write grants. I think that there are a lot of IT grants out there for schools, and I think that we could probably, that this position would pay for itself in the grant money that we could receive for it. That's just my opinion.
All right. Seeing no lights, I assume that we'll take no action, and we'll move on to the next. Okay? City of Columbia MOU. What? Tell me about who needs to speak to this.
Good evening. I can speak to that. I'm Lori Stanton, Coordinator for School Health. We received a grant from the state of Tennessee. It's a 3-year grant. The first year is focused at Cox Middle School. It's putting in a walking track, not a competition track, walking track and trails. Unfortunately, the land isn't ours anymore, so we had to do this MOU with the city in order to put that on that land. And students will have full use of that.
All right, I'm having mine's not coming up very easily. Do I hear a motion to approve? Mr. Moore made the motion and Mr. Howell seconded the motion. Any discussion? Ms. Parker?
Sorry. First, thank you for writing the grant and getting the grant. That's awesome. The only thing I would say is, why did we pick Cox if we don't own the land there?
Well, the main thrust of this grant was to remodel the home ec kitchens. I teach the cooking classes throughout the district, and so we got the funds to do kitchens at EA Cox this year. The next year is Whitthorne Middle School. The next year is Santa Fe Unit School. We chose the middle school setting because that age group tends to get the less physical activity, and health tends to kind of fall out of place for some of them. So we were focusing on the middle schools. There was plenty of money available after I had written up the kitchen remodels. So we just kind of looked around, asked the kids, asked the students. If you've been at school when they have physical activity time, the kids are usually playing on the asphalt. And we've had injuries. We had a child life-flighted last year from playing on the asphalt. So we thought that this would put some infrastructure in place for our students during the school day, during that physical activity time, but then also be available for the community. But middle school tends to be where the activity falls off.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, is any other discussion? Then we're ready to vote.
Please vote now. Mr. Fulbright? Yes. Mr. Dudley? Yes. Mr. Beaver? Yes. Motion passes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the proposed operation organizational chart. Mr. Perriman, I know that you communicated with us through email in answer to my email, but I think maybe there may be some questions tonight.
Yes, ma'am. And you do have a copy of the chart as well as the initial proposal in that. I'll take questions. I can explain it if need be, or specific questions for your
Are there new
guidance.
positions?
There is 2 new positions in the chart, and what we're asking is, one of them is a Safe Schools coordinator. In the Safe Schools grant this year, we wrote that in prior to this change happening on our side of personnel. That originally was going to be an 11-month coordinator that would have answered to me, because in my prior role it was transportation and safety. They would have just been someone that worked for me through that department, just like the transportation folks. When this change came about, we really talked about this is the good time to actually separate those 2 roles out. We are the only district in the top 20 districts size-wise that had a transportation director that had a second responsibility. And we're the only district in the top 20 size-wise that had a safety coordinator that had a second obligation as well. So we looked at this as just a good timing to divide those. In the original org chart that Mr. Breeden had worked up, and this org chart's been with us for a while now, we didn't push it forward during budgeting this last year. We really looked at maybe this year doing it. There was a position above those 2, and it would have been the position I held where those 2 answered to me. So we've made those standalone. The funding for the Safe Schools coordinator is fully funded from our Safe Schools grant. It will cost you nothing. We have that funding in place as well. The transportation supervisor would be the line item that my previous role of the 2 combined would be there. So there's no money involved in those 2 positions. What we've asked for on the opposite side is the director of facilities. And what we've proposed is taking a position that we have right now, currently the construction manager position, promoting that person that's within that position, and instead of maintenance and construction being 2 silos, basically put them under him to where those 2 would work together. Now, what we've proposed at this point is that we freeze the construction manager role until a new budget cycle. So we're not asking for you to fund a new position plus hire someone in a position that we're promoting from. The funds for the new position or from the change of position would come from the JDC funds. Dr. Marzak has those in place, and we have that funding aligned already. But this would create, and what we feel that would do, is by putting construction and maintenance under one supervisor, then we can kind of better work through preventative maintenance. We can see what's being done in new buildings, carry that throughout the other buildings. And our maintenance department is currently the only department in the school system that does not have an ongoing professional development model. They are the only department that has never been transitioned to, they have constant training. And what we're looking to do is that this role would be someone who comes in, and that's part of his responsibility, is what kind of professional development are we doing for our guys? Because you've heard Mr. Breeden say before, we have problems hiring folks that are qualified. I think you approved in the last couple of years a lead HVAC person, and we had to pay a competitive rate. Well, what we have is really good workers who are really good workers for our district, but they've not received formal training. So we have to, within our own midst, kind of build that training up, and that's one thing this new role would be tasked for.
Ms. Parker?
Bottom line, what's the increase in cost to the district for
Total for everything, somewhere between 20 to 30,000 total.
20 to 30,000, and
that's for the whole model.
For the whole model.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that the one position's paid for by a grant.
By the grant, yes, ma'am.
How long is that grant supposed
That
to
is
run?
that is a reoccurring yearly grant. However, this is the Safe Schools grant that has been around since 1993. We are guaranteed that we do not go backwards. In fact, we went up this year about $98,000 in funding with Governor Lee's initiative. You saw he pushed that $40 million out this year. So we are at that point. This grant has grown tremendously. 5 years ago when I took it over, we were at $53,000. We're sitting right at $218 this year.
Okay.
But that's funded out of that.
So that position you anticipate would continue to be covered.
We do not see it going away.
And then you said that, I guess the other increased costs are gonna be for the trainings?
The bulk of that would be for the moving from the construction manager to the facilities. Our construction manager was hired in 5 years ago as an interim, and he's been on an interim status ever since then. So he is woefully underpaid for the duties that he's been doing, and it's just been something that, like I said, this model that I'm presenting to you, the only change that I've made from one that we've had for about 2 years was separating transportation and safety. Mr. Breeden's just not ever really felt that it was the best time to push it forward. He actually developed the bulk of this when you guys had the lean frog, and I almost said lean monkey care frog, but when lean monkey came in and we did the organizational we changed the overall structure and we changed the instructional side, but we never changed the operational side. So what he's done, and the bulk of this came from him other than the adjustment on that one side, was really look at what districts around us and districts our size. I think we're the 12th. Are we the 12th largest district in the state? So districts that are big districts, not little districts that surround us, but how do they manage their operations side? And this is more in line with what they do.
So you're basing it off of the lean frog?
No. He's had this since lean frog was done.
But you've updated it.
Yes,
since
we've
lean
held
frog.
this chart since then.
So this isn't what lean frog
This
proposed.
is not what Lean Frog proposed.
Okay.
If you remember when Lean Frog came through, the organizational chart, the overall, and then the instructional actually got approved for change. The operational never received a change.
Now you said that this, I guess the 20,000 then you said would come from
JDC funds. Right.
which is Juvenile Detention Center, right?
Yep.
And I'll just say this, not that I don't think that Mr. Hall deserves a raise.
Right.
But one thing I have an issue with is using those funds for it. I think those funds are really supposed to be coming to educate students. And I don't really see the connection in this, to be completely honest, when we're talking about going to construction manager being elevated over to facilities. I would like to see that we have in place what we need for the students first and foremost before we start taking money from students to pay for raises, essentially. If you could find another way to pay for it, I'd be willing to look at that. And if that's something that as a board, I feel like we want to look at from a budget amendment or from fund balance, you know, we can do a budget amendment on that. But I really just don't feel like that JDC money is really supposed to be spent on that. And I don't think it was money that we had planned on when we did our budget originally, and it seems like this is just kind of like this kitty that just keeps getting dipped into. And I would just like for us to have a little bit more say about how that kitty gets spent. Not that I oppose the organizational chart itself, but funding it, I have a concern about.
And that was part of the reason that we just said we would be fine with freezing the construction manager role at this point until funding could be discussed later, because we knew we were dipping into a fund we didn't want to overdip. So.
Dr. Marcel?
Yes, thank you. So we can take the word JDC out and just put in the word BEP. So basically, we've already budgeted for the JDC. We already spend money that's already fully funded. This is BEP money that's owed to us that Shelby County has not been sending to us. That is going to be reoccurring money because we're a relocation site for the Juvenile Justice Center. Children are sent here, and from this side, children are sent to Shelby County. So basically what we're talking about doing is taking BEP money, which we do get money for operational expenditures that will be used in the budget. But we already fully fund the JDC through our own BEP.
Okay, I need a little clarification. You say that this right now, that you're gonna freeze the funds, the person who would have possibly will get a raise if we put it in the budget next year. So there's no extra funds here other than the funds of the safety grant. So we're not talking about anything in this operational that we're gonna have to do a budget amendment for anything, correct?
No, we will have to do a budget amendment. So
Okay.
when the money comes in through the BEP, which we're about to receive in the next month or so, we'll have to do a budget amendment to spend that money anyway. We've only done one so far. My recommendation in working with Mr. Perryman is this is going to be a reoccurring funding that we're going to receive year after year. You don't want to take one-time funding to fund a position because then you may not have that one-time funding next year. So we will be able to allocate BEP money to impact the facility manager's position.
Mr. Dudley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I understand that we're saying that we're gonna put a freeze and not give this gentleman a raise until budget time again.
What we're saying is that what we're asking is that he move into this new position that we're creating, but that his current position, which is construction manager, we would not refill that at this time. We ask that you leave it on the organizational chart just as a future hire, and it would be something that we discussed during budget time. We talked about this, and this really came about just due to the change of everything on our side, and we said, well, this is a time that we could do it. And one reason that we've asked that you kind of not refill that position at this point was we didn't want this to look like we were kind of backdooring that position that keeps getting cut out every year that Mr. Breeden has asked for. We didn't want you to think we were trying to come in and get that, so that's why we're saying Mr. Hall would actually change positions. He would no longer be the construction manager, he would be the facilities director, but we're saying at this time we would just hold the construction manager spot and not fill it until we knew that funding was in place the next year.
Okay. Then one other question, this organizational chart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we just got through lack of a motion to cut, what are we calling it? The supervisor of digital integration.
We did not cut it.
That's what I'm saying, we did not cut him.
Right.
But while we're developing this chart, can we go ahead and put a place in there?
It would fall directly under Mr. Schuyler, and it would just, what we would do is amend that box down there where it's access control specialist trainer, and we would just put that in there as one of the folks that work for him.
Well, now,
It wouldn't require adding another spot on it, it would just put his title within there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Morency?
So the positions we're talking about, director of, the person that's construction manager now?
Facility, yes.
Would become the director of facilities.
He would become the director of facilities. He would oversee all construction, new construction or remodeling, but then the maintenance department would fall under him as well.
Okay.
Currently, they stand alone. Actually, they answered directly to Mr. Breeden, and what we flipped is instead of construction and maintenance answering directly to my spot, we're saying that transportation and safety
there's no
would.
construction manager on this there's a maintenance manager, is that the
There's
position?
a construction manager to the left of that, you may have to pull.
I can't read it.
Oh.
Can't read it.
Okay, it's not showing on mine,
It,
okay.
yeah.
So all of these other positions, except for this construction manager, and who would be doing the construction manager's job?
Mr. Hall would at this time, he would be doing both of those roles.
The director of
Yes.
facilities? Okay, all right.
That's
all
why
I
we're
wanted.
saying we ask not to fill that
Okay.
until funding comes along.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Parker?
I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as we just, essentially, central office got bigger with the diploma supervisor position being approved. Now, that was part of the budget, and there was no budget amendment, but we approved that. Now we're approving potentially another position at central office. I just have a hard time when we're constantly talking about curriculum issues, athletic issues, all these things, and we are just always making central office bigger. I think teachers want to see that they have the resources that they need in the classroom, that coaches have what they need on the field, students have what they need, essentially, to be successful. And I just don't, we're always taking BEP money, but BEP money is for their education, for students' education, not to make central office bigger. And I'm just struggling with that. Again, if that grant went up $98,000, why did we not find the money to pay for that there? I mean, I'm sure you had good things that you did with it, but at the same time, if we're prioritizing things at some point, people have got to stop prioritizing high-paying salaries in central office. I don't even know what the director of facilities is going to end up making or what range you're talking about, but I'm struggling with that aspect of it, especially when we as a board every June are trying to cut and cut and cut to make a budget work. And we're in October and we're already back to, we've got to add positions, we've got to add things. And it's not things that necessarily benefit students. It's things that make things hopefully run smoother in the district. But as far as ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, it has nothing to do with that. And I'm struggling with that, because that's what I feel like my role is up here.
Mr. Fulbright, is your light on? It was on and off. Okay, Mr. Moore?
Just a motion to approve the operational chart.
There's a motion to approve the chart as presented. Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Dudley, second the motion. Any further discussion? Then we're ready to vote.
Please vote now. Mr. Fulbright?
No.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes.
Mr. Beaver?
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, that motion fails. What? All right, moving on. I realize we're to FYI, but if you'll see that very first item there is talking about district liaison positions. Excuse me, guys. That'll be on the agenda every month, so that if any of you have anything to bring to us from when, this was my idea to have a liaison in different departments. Not that they'll be telling you how to do, anybody telling how to, but just as an information, if they need to bring things. For instance, Mr. Howell is going to be working with Mr. Pointer. Ms. Parker is interested in working with Dr. Woodard in getting the teacher roundtables going. So it's just an opportunity we have to get a little bit more involved without really trying to do your business. You all are the professionals and you know what you're doing, but I feel like the more information that we have. So that will be on the agenda, so that if board members have anything to report at that time in FYI, then we can do that. And do you have anything to report? No? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Moore, seconded by everyone. Have a good evening.